Hello and welcome to Into the Chatterverse, where two gents share their 2 cents on all things pop culture. I am Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics.
And I am Bill.
Always just Bill.
Always.
The
Always
calm.
just Bill.
The calm before the storm is what he is, actually. Thank you guys for tuning in. We always appreciate your time and energy, and we're going to match that with a quick little look back of 2023 and our favorite things in pop media that we experienced. We're a little bit into 2024 so far. How's this year been for you, Bill?
It's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
No
outside of
complaints?
Echo.
You didn't like it? All right, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that some other time. We got it. It's cool. It's cool. But obviously, 2023, lots of things happened, some good, some bad. So I want to know, what is your tip top for 2023 in pop media?
It was Godzilla.
Whoa.
And starting off with Godzilla Minus One.
Okay.
It was
okay.
the first time I think I'd watched a Godzilla movie that had a very good story and a credible story that went along with it. And it looked great. And at no time in it did I feel like it dragged
Right.
by any means. Or, they threw in a
Random monster.
a superfluous love story that always seems to
be weird.
Yeah, it never works,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it looked great outside of, when he was in the water and his head was above
Oh,
water.
come on. That's like one of the best parts.
He looked like a Macy Day float.
They're going to use that, right? Universal is going to create like a Godzilla themed attraction like Jaws, and that's what it's going to be. You're going to be in a boat, and it's not going to go anywhere, but the head is just going to slowly creep up.
Yeah,
and get closer and closer.
It's going to look like crap.
Well, but it'll be
But-
fun, and people will get engaged on it.
I think the thing that surprised me even more was the $15 million budget, which turns out wasn't $15 million. It was a lot less than that.
Yes.
According to the director, and and the fact that this last time I checked, it made like $65 million. I think
That's
it's even
not
more
bad.
than that now. But on a $15 million budget,
Right. On an inflated $15 million budget.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What do you think is the messaging that Hollywood should take from that, if anything?
well, the hard part on that is I don't know what the union rules are in Japan,
That's a good point.
and but also $250 million to make a movie is entirely too much money.
Yes.
And if you keep relying on special effects the way you do with computers, it's only going to get worse because they're all unionizing.
Right.
And rightfully so, because these people are work 18 hours a day, and then all of a sudden these companies go out of business because they lowballed the whole thing.
You can't maintain anything.
I think that there's a happy medium there. I think if you can make a movie for $100 million, that's a win, especially if it's something along the lines of a Marvel movie or DC movie or even to some extent Star Wars. I think the practical effects are still viable. I mean, even in Episode 7 for Star Wars, Force Awakens, they used some practical effects in that as well, which is how Harrison Ford got hurt.
Also true.
But I think that they need to look at the budgets and where everything gets overblown, and how much does that person really actually have to be a producer on this movie? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, especially because with the avenues of release for movies being so very different now. I mean, when it was almost strictly movie theater oriented, that makes sense because it's driving people to a place where there is a higher unit price per viewership, so you can actually make that money back. With streaming, and especially with the outlets of going to streaming so fast, it is kind of irresponsible for studios to spend that much on production, which is one of the things I think makes Godzilla Minus One so very smart. It was very truncated, very tight, and even allowed for initially planned limited release where they were just kind of making back some of their money, if that was the plan. But they did a phenomenal job with both the execution and showcase so that American-born, Godzilla fan base showed up for this thing and they made back plenty of money, and now actually are looking at they're doing a re-release, right, with black and white.
Yes.
So just a little extra now being tacked on to the the financial comeuppance of this thing. So I think I think it's smart, and I don't know if there's anything that's saying when it's coming to streaming or any
I've
digital
not seen
platform.
anything as far as streaming, but I believe that the black and white is next week, and I still don't understand the black and white. But whatever works, works. I mean, it can't cost that much
Right.
money to just go
It's a filter.
grays.
It's a filter.
But the second part of that would also be Monarch.
Okay.
This was a show that I wasn't expecting a whole lot because the American-made Godzilla movies, Legendary. They're not great. They're okay. And we talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
I even forgot that there was a fifth movie. As much as it said, there's 5 movies, and
You're like, wait.
I'm like, there's Godzilla, there's King Kong,
Yeah.
there's both of them, and then
Right.
there's this other one they're making.
That's
Oh yeah,
out.
yeah, there was another one in there, and I completely forgot about it. And to be honest with you, I don't remember anything about it.
Wow. Our buddy Jean Paul actually abhors King of Monsters, King of the Monsters, because for him it loses all sensibility when it comes to physics in certain places. And I'm like, it's Godzilla, like it's just big monsters. He's like, no, it's got to make sense. And I'm like, does it?
This goes to my Superman analogy.
Oh, do tell.
You can believe that a guy can fly,
Right.
that bullets bounce off of him, and that he has laser beams come out of his eyeballs. But you can't believe that Lois Lane doesn't know that Clark Kent is Superman.
Your levels of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, I mean,
just let it ride.
to me, it's one of those things that there are times that I get it, but
Right.
also
Like, come on.
physics,
Right.
Godzilla.
Changes everything. Like,
Yeah,
it
no.
doesn't even matter.
No.
It doesn't even matter. I still tease him about it because I'm like, nah, I enjoyed King Ghidorah and the showcase of everybody. I liked a lot of what that movie did. Do you think that there is any sort of correlation here? Because obviously with the Legendary movies, they're spending more money, obviously, on each of these productions than Minus One. And Minus One just being so good, is it kind of a lesson to American, filmmakers, audiences to go, you don't need all of that to do something good?
It is, but I don't think they'll
Yeah,
listen.
you're not getting it?
No,
We were
because
on
I
strike
think
at the
they're
time. We weren't
they're
paying attention.
so entrenched in franchise
Right.
and just the look of everything.
Mhm.
Though I mean, if you just look at Oppenheimer
Right.
and Barbie and the amount of money that those movies made, and they came out in the same week, and that's
right.
like unheard of. But you've got to give. It's one of those things where they knee jerk to, oh my God, franchises,
Right.
but they also shy away from things like, oh, that never worked before. Though Disney used to spend $15 million on a movie,
Right.
and they would crank out like 12, 15 movies a year, and they would make a ton of money off those things.
It's true.
But now everything's, Godzilla's a
budget.
franchise, but I
Yeah.
think that big budget doesn't collect big paydays anymore.
That's true. That whole spend more to make more isn't necessarily true when the quality of what you've spent it on doesn't showcase. I think that's one of the things you were talking about, where these companies are, spending obscene amounts of hours to do this, digital production work, but then it doesn't translate where we go, that's seamless, or it's so beautiful, we've never seen anything like that. They're spending all these hours, and they were like, it's still kind of crap.
Yeah.
And that's, it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, it just goes right into the Marvel stuff. Like
Very true.
for years they're big budget stuff, and the stories were well told.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not on the page so much as on the screen
Right.
sometimes, but the money was, they're like, oh, we have to throw all this money in to make it look good, and I'm like, I don't know about that.
If you just make it good, it's not about the
Right,
special
but make it
effects.
good is that's kind of a cop out also, because
That's fair, 'cause what is that?
What
Right.
do you go in going, I'm gonna write a
I'm
crappy
gonna
story?
make a bad movie.
Yeah.
That is fair. But I do think that's a very pointed, sort of nuanced piece, if you will, because to make it good should mean something in this business. I think that's part of one of my issues as a creative is if I'm not in the business and I can come up with, at least on the narrative level, better solutions to what you gave me, then we are doing things lopsided in terms of the value structure of what we're investing in, which is part of like a bigger conversation when it comes to the creative value and the place of economics for making things.
Yeah.
But, I think that, what's really interesting is that we have more of a voice of saying what is good and what is not. And I would like to see Hollywood be better practitioners of understanding that. Like, maybe it's just a matter of the whole, studios getting involved, and studio guys are bean counters, not creatives. You hired creatives to do the creative part. Let them do their job. Like, that's kind of important.
There are a lot of times, though, when you see a good movie and you can forgive the special effects because, it's secondary to it. Mm-hmm. But when there's a bad movie and there's bad special effects, it makes for even a worse experience.
I agree. What was some of your favorite effects moments in Monarch?
You know what?
Yeah.
All the monsters were great, which makes me wonder how much they spend on that. I did like that Kurt and Wyatt playing the same character type thing.
That is fun.
And that it didn't make any sense as to why, and then they made it make sense, and I'm like, okay, that's an interstellar moment for me, basically.
Yes.
And I didn't have a problem with the way I'm sure there's some scientists out there who say that's not the way that's going to work, and I'm going to say I don't care. Yeah,
it was entertaining. And
right.
I watched it and I liked it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson is like, well, and you're like, quiet, Neil, quiet, sit down. No, that's cool though. I love that. What you're talking about is a Hallmark franchise. They're celebrating a big anniversary this year, right? Godzilla turned 70 this year, if I'm not mistaken. First movie came out in 54.
That is.
I think that's right.
That's right. 70, yeah.
Bam! Look at that. I was doing that math.
To be honest with you, they could have said Godzilla was 100. As long as Godzilla's been around. It's kind of almost like James Bond.
That is true. At some point,
except Godzilla is sexy.
I don't know, man. James pulls the ladies, but Godzilla definitely has more bodies. You're right. I just learned new stuff about James Bond the other day that we're going to have to do a whole episode on, that he's based off of Christopher Lee, like in real life. Did you know
I think I knew that. Yeah,
That's
I think I had heard that at one.
crazy.
Well, Christopher Lee was a suave guy.
Hey. Apparently
he was great Dracula.
That actually hurt him. That actually hurt his career because he was too good at Dracula. Crazy. But we'll talk about that some other time. No, that's a good one. Anything else you want to add on about the Godzilla franchise?
No, you know what? I think it's one of those things where because most of the times I have a problem when they cross mediums like that. And I actually think that if they introduce the characters into the movies, I won't be upset by that.
Okay.
Because everyone should have Apple TV Plus anyway because
wrong.
of Ted Lasso, and they should be watching that over and over again.
Also true.
And for all mankind.
Man, that you and Jean-Paul both keep hyping up for all mankind. I'm gonna have to watch it. Like, I just gotta carve out time and just watch it. Just absolutely.
You're gonna hate yourself when you do it too.
Am I really, for like not having watched it before?
Yeah, because you're like, oh my god, I'm 4 seasons into this.
All right.
Because you're not gonna have enough time.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because you'll sit down and you'll watch one episode. Okay, one more.
One more.
Okay, I've got to be up in 4 hours.
Let me just get one more.
3 hours.
One more. What's one more?
I can get sleep tomorrow.
Yeah. Let me just get a Red Bull. I'll be fine. I'll just watch it. Yeah, that would be me. You're not wrong. For mine, I'm going to pivot back to the MCU. And I will be super, super honest that I have not loved most of Phase 4. Not at all. And the things that I did love, one I think is definitely, fan favorite. The other, not so much in terms of, what I hear in terms of chatter from other people. Last year, what we had, 3 MCU movies, 2 shows. Yes? Am I doing that right?
I think you're on the wrong phase, though.
Am I?
I believe we're in Phase 5.
Are we officially 5?
I want to say that we are in Phase 5.
So we're no longer in multiverse. What is this?
No, I think that Phase 4 and 5 are It's just like there, 3 different phases for the original.
Okay.
And Thanos was a part of the whole thing
Of the
anyway.
Infinity Saga. So we're Multiverse Saga. We're officially in Phase 5.
If that continues, yes.
Okay. All right. I thought 5 wasn't starting until we had Fantastic Four, but maybe that's 6. I can't remember. We were there, right? We were there in San Diego when they made the announcement, but
how many times have they changed that?
Exactly. So I'm at a loss for it. But what I can say is that with the movies that came out in 2023, so that is Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania, Guardians 3, and the Marvels. While I did enjoy the Marvels, it was cute. Took my daughter, so it was right in the alleyway for that one. Though I do have notes. Respectfully, I have notes. Quantumania, nah. It was a whole lot of no for me. Whole lot of no.
It looked like a Jack Kirby movie. If Jack Kirby made a movie, that's the way it would look.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would look like.
Yes.
But it failed for context and scale, which is so funny to say for an Ant-Man movie,
right,
that it doesn't get scale right. But
right.
It doesn't, right? Because, okay, and we've talked about this for a while. This should have been, respectfully, the death of Scott Lang. Scott Lang should have died in this movie. And it's not that I don't like Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd. I think he's fantastic. I think the first Ant-Man movie is literally my favorite of the bunch because it was coming off of Age of Ultron, which I hated, and it just gave me more joy, which I appreciate. But the idea that Scott could fight Kang hand-to-hand on any level, ridiculous. Like, Kang is a warrior. Like, Scott was a thief who learned how to fight in prison. Not the same thing. Like, Scott should never have gotten a punch off. Kang should have beat him to death. And that should have been part of the thing that you take with you when you're talking about, hey, this guy Kang is coming. He killed Scott, murdered him dead, bad. The
only thing I'll say about that is I don't disagree with it, but also that would also show the arrogance of Kang.
Again,
he was playing with his food.
Yes.
I'm not forgiving it.
That's yeah.
I'm not forgiving it at all.
Yeah.
At all.
But playing with his food, I would like to see him be more taunting in his playing, where Scott knows beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm messing with you. I could kill you at any time.
Yeah.
I'm literally just teasing. I'm bored. I've been here. Whatever. We're not here to talk about ones I did.
And Ant-Man started Phase 5.
That's the official.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have not loved all of Phase 5.
No. Well, no, except for the one.
Except for the one, which is my tip top of Phase 5, Guardians of the Galaxy #3.
Yeah.
There was so much that was done right on every level, both visually, narratively, fan, service wise. There was so much that was done, and so much that surprised us. For this last outing from James Gunn in the MCU, being that he is now in the top spot or co-chair of the top spot at DC and Warner Brothers. There was so much that I was afraid, I'm not even going to lie, that he was burning down his own house because it's not his house. Yes, it's his name, I get that, but it was also his name when they kicked him out, and I can understand if he had a little bit of resentment in that. I give him mad credit for being not petty in that regard, and stepping to the occasion and still delivering an amazing movie. Emotionally, it got us. There were so Juno watched it one time. She will not watch any of the scenes where the animals get hurt.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah. She will,
that's the part that gets me.
Yes. Every time.
Yeah.
And if I have it on and it's getting close, will you skip that? For you, I will. Absolutely. She can't, it is so emotionally resonant.
Yeah.
A 6-year-old latched on and remembers. This is a kid that still thinks she could be a dinosaur from time to time. But still, that is on. She's like, yeah, I don't want to watch that part. That makes me sad. And he nailed it. The surprise factor, of course, nobody died. I was so surprised. I just knew that this was going to be that closing door. It's the final chapter. Everyone that, was working with James is like, yeah, I'm not doing this without him.
Yeah, because Zoe Saldana said that. Dave Bautista said that as well.
Yep.
And they left it wide open for them. And you thought for sure that, you know, Pratt was done.
Oh, I thought he died.
Yeah.
And theoretically, he probably should have. But, you know, spoilers for those who don't know, he got big-faced about it.
Well, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
You kill someone off in the Marvel Universe,
Mm-hmm.
the majority of them come back.
That is true.
How many times does Loki come back?
Oh, every time. Actually.
And we've probably seen the end of Loki, and he didn't die.
No. And that I think is still funny because that put a pin in that one because the end of Loki,
Right.
I think not.
Right.
And to be fair, while a lot of people enjoyed Loki season 2, I was not as big of a fan. As we've talked about before, because again, there are places where I wanted it to connect back to the MCU in a very special sort of way, not necessarily be in its own lane. I understand like it's kind of what it's built, but there are so many reference points that would kind of make the impact of what season 2 was bigger by just going back and going, remember this part, remember this thing, remember that, that they didn't do. So if I can connect my MCU love, so we've got Guardians on one side, what if season 2 on the other side? I loved it. I absolutely adored it. I think that
Wouldn't they be on the same side then?
Of the end caps.
Oh,
that's
the end
my,
caps.
That's my end caps of my love of it.
Yeah.
Everything else.
Okay.
Kinda,
Yeah.
But yeah, so season 2 gave me pause by not just being like, oh, isn't this interesting, but like literally asking questions about characters and stories that made me go back and question a greater MCU whole, which is what I think What If as a story like series is supposed to do. It's what the comics do, right? Where you take a moment and you go, let's reframe this entire story perspective by changing this thing and then seeing what happens.
Yeah.
That's powerful. And I think this season does that better than anything else. Like even season 1, what was it? The zombie episode?
Yeah.
Cute that it came from the Quantum Zone. Cute. I hated it though. Where I think it should have come from, Captain America 3, the vial of stuff that Rumlow steals, that's what should have caused the zombie virus.
Okay.
It's
I just not a zombie.
That's fair.
Zombies to me are a cop out.
That
It's like, we have this character that we think is so cool, but look at him zombified.
Look at him as the undead.
And here's a lame character that's zombified.
And now it's even more dangerous.
But I liked season 2 more than I liked season 1.
Mm-hmm.
The series for me isn't what I'm used to.
Okay.
When it comes to What If, so that bias is on me. So I do have a problem with it, but I did enjoy the fact that they created a whole new character.
Yes. Kahari was amazing.
Yeah.
When we first saw the trailer showcasing her, the question was, are they actually integrating Disney princesses into the Marvel Universe? We thought it was Pocahontas. And I don't say that like pejoratively. It was like, are they actually making Pocahontas a character?
Yeah, I mean, that's legit. Yeah,
Right.
I can see that. I could see that happening, yeah.
It would have been an interesting move. And I
Right.
don't think I would have been mad if they had done it. I'm fine that they didn't, but I don't think I would have been mad if they had done it because it just would have been a fun sort of weird connection in a place where you can make weird connections. There's nothing to say that Pocahontas now has to show up in the MCU proper. It was just a fun what if.
Yeah.
So, but no, Kahari I think was a fun character. Did you like the story, the way it was?
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those stories that wasn't told super fast.
Right,
Like,
right.
we're in a hurry to tell a story. We've got 23 minutes to do it. Let's roll.
True.
And another problem I've had with the stories and What If after seeing the very first episode
Mm-hmm.
and then talking to Ken about it,
Mm-hmm.
Ken was like, I didn't know what If is. I felt that was the Captain Carter episode.
Right.
And he's like, I thought it was a good starting point. And I'm like, that's what it is. It's an introduction to other people. What If is.
Yep.
And it never connected with me.
I got you. Did the showcase of Kahari taint your impression of Echo at all? Because I'm not gonna lie, I did enjoy Echo, but having them come out so close to one another, I couldn't help but compare and go, are they associating this at all. And when they didn't, I was like, oh.
Isn't the voice of Kahari her best friend growing up?
Oh, I don't know. I did not do that deep.
Anyway, Echo to me
Yeah.
was, we have a great idea for a story, we don't know how to tell it. It was, hey, look at the our people in the past,
Right.
and try to connect the dots, and I think they didn't do a very good job of it.
That's very fair, especially because they were kind of flying. I don't want to say flying blind, but they were making up stuff as they went, because that's not fully like a story from the comics for Echo.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
New stuff is always good.
Right.
Just like even with my bias against What If, I don't blame them when they don't stick to the story of the comic books. There's just so much about it, and the fact that they dumped all 5 episodes at one time, and it was a dump.
I mean, they gave it to you. Yeah, it was all 5. Just here.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, here they are.
Yeah, and to a degree, I do think that there is something powerful about making people wait.
It gives you time to talk about it.
Definitely that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say benefit, but kind of, I guess. So, weekend before last, I did Fan Expo Portland, and I was supposed to have Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio for a panel. Vincent unfortunately canceled, so it was just Charlie and I. And of course, like, knowing that Vincent was supposed to be on it, I binged all 5 episodes of Echo because I knew he was going to be a major part of it. If they had, kind of separated things out a little bit, even made it weekly, I think I might have gotten through episode 2 in terms of a release if they had done it that way. And that would have been fine because, spoilers, Charlie makes a cameo. When I believe that's episode 2. So it would have been just enough to tease and hype if, Vincent was there, but not necessarily just kind of move beyond it where we just can't talk about any part of it. We could kind of hype up some aspects of it and use the fact that some of these stars are on the convention circuit to hype up these opportunities. But by dropping it all, you do kind of put all your eggs in one basket and hope that people see it at a certain interval, and if they don't, then you've missed your shot and there is no recoup or collection later on.
I think when they do that kind of thing, that they better make sure that they have a product that people want to watch again.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Daredevil, I think I've rewatched Daredevil at least 3 times.
Absolutely.
And I've enjoyed it every time, even when knowing what was going on, even when the Punisher shows up.
No, that's
also
real.
not my favorite character.
Well,
no matter how
what,
you tell the story.
I'm not gonna lie. I am dying for them to switch gears and instead of associate Frank with Matt, I want him to go after Peter Parker, just as he did in the comics. I would like
the Punisher to go back to being a gun for hire.
Yes.
I think that's more compelling than. I mean, yes, his family was killed by the mob.
It's very sad.
It's
very, very sad.
It's such an original story.
Right. And at this point, we know that.
Yeah.
What else can we do with that?
I had this conversation earlier today with someone, and by conversation, I said I was the one talking. We were discussing the Marvel villains.
Okay.
And and then we were talking about Daredevil, and I'm like, I get that Kingpin's dad beat him.
Right.
And that's his, that's him growing up and everything. But whatever happened to the bad guy just being bad? Because it's fun. Because this is what I enjoy doing.
Right.
Now, that may make him psychotic, but also he doesn't have to have a backstory.
Right.
He can just be evil.
We, for the longest time, that was the showcase, right? Like, we didn't necessarily aim to humanize bad guys under any circumstance.
Yeah.
If they had it and it made sense, sure. Like, I think of things like movies like The Rock, right? Where these were veterans that were upset at how veterans weren't being treated well. At least Ed Harris that was his motivation.
Yeah.
And the guys under him, though, no, they were just psychotic soldiers who were wanting to get one off.
Right.
And even went against him when the time came to do so. Like, that's... One guy he was a bad guy with a purpose, and the other guys were just bad guys.
Right.
That's fun, too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You don't have to be... not everything has to be told. Like,
Right.
a good guy can be good because he thinks,
Just because.
he just would rather help people.
It's true. It's true. No, I agree with that. So, yeah, those were my 2 picks for great things in 2023. I love your 2 picks. I think those were fantastic. I need to go ahead and watch Monarch. That's before it gets out of hand and there's 6-7 seasons that I
outside of the final episode. And I've seen other people go, I can't wait for the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like that. No, that was it. That was the end.
Done.
And it was a little disappointing, but also, I guess, always leaving wanting more isn't a bad thing.
That's true.
But I just don't think they did it right.
I got you. Honorable mention, Reacher, season 2.
Loved it.
Yep.
You loved it so much. Went back and watched season 1.
That's what I'm talking about. That's a good show.
And Alan Richardson, perfectly made for this role.
Yes. Literally grown in a jar for this role.
Yeah, and actually he gets bigger between season 1 and season 2.
He does.
And I was shocked by that. I just because I forgot that it'd been like 2 years between shows. So
dude is swole.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of interviews with it. Seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah. I've seen him not personally worked with him, but I've seen him at conventions.
Yeah.
Not since Reacher, if I'm not mistaken, but in between like the Titan years.
Yeah.
Saw him at shows, and he seemed like a really cool guy. I love the rumor mill that he wants Batman in James Gunn's new DC universe, and I like that idea. I really, really do. I think his size is great for Batman, especially if he is bigger than Superman when we get any sort of comparative stand side by sides of the two. I want Batman to be bigger than Superman.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Superman doesn't have to be.
He does not have to be big.
No.
At all.
No, he just has to be Kryptonian.
Yes. That was I just had this conversation with someone, and normally, like, when I teach about storytelling and character design, and I go into how Superman can have big muscles from a narrative standpoint, do you know why? And very rarely does anyone, like, nail it that Clark Kent would then have to have big muscles,
right.
And it's very difficult to, have the two. The other part is, where does Superman lift weights? Like, where? What gym does he go to? He doesn't. So it's almost better for super strength to not be a facet of musculature. It's literal power.
I suggest you go back and read Man of Steel by John Byrne.
Oh, yes. Absolute classic. Doesn't he have stuff in the Fortress that equates to gravity for him? Is that what it is in that one?
Well, he has weights at home.
Yeah.
And Lois Lane was able to pick him up, and she's like, "You really work out with this?"
And he's like, "Yeah."
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
I do. What are you talking about?
Absolutely.
That is one of the things that I said during the Man of Steel era of the movies that they hinted at just a little bit. Big shout out to Zack Snyder. That when it comes to physical labor, Clark Kent is terrible at understanding the balance of human strength.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have it, right? Like, he will pick something up that he's not supposed to because he doesn't know that humans aren't supposed to be able to do that, because he can't naturally see the weight of anything because everything's just light to him. And they do that in Man of Steel, where he meets Lois and he grabs all of her bags and she goes, "Be careful, that's heavy." And he stops and he looks like, "Oh, is it? Okay, sorry."
Sure, heavy. Why not?
It's a sweet little subtle thing, but I would do that in everything that he does. Like, he cannot work physical labor jobs because he always gets caught.
Right.
Love that. So, this was a good episode. I think a great way to kick off into 2024. Looking back and getting ready to talk about all the amazing things that are coming up. We have lots of opinions, lots of things that we're going to chat about. This is what we do, right? Two gents giving our 2 cents.
Yep.
Welcome to Into the Chatterverse. 2024 edition. Biggity bam. Once again, I'm Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics.
And I'm Bill, just here to annoy him.
And we'll see you guys next time.